the Forex session live stream. So first of all, we will delete everything from yesterday and we will redo our analysis in gold and GBP/JPY. So yesterday was holiday in uh, United States, so I have decided that I will not trade and I will stay away, especially from gold. So our analysis was if we break below 1807, we can potentially drop till 1804, almost 30 pips of 30 pips, and we have successfully done that trade idea, but the volume was very low and I didn't execute it on this trade. In GBP JPY, prices were right around here when we arrived at charts, and we basically drew our analysis that there is high probability for prices to go into buy if we break above 164.200 area, prices to break above that, but it was not a high quality trade, so I again stayed away from GBP JPY. I didn't trade yesterday, but I am okay with that. But now we are waiting. We came to charts very early. London session will open in almost 2 hours from now. London will happen in 1 hour. So I am at charts very early at this point. So I am waiting, and in the meantime I will draw my analysis what I am looking for in the markets today, and I might execute if the things that I like to watch appear. So basically monthly candle is rejecting from 1780 area, but by looking at monthly candle there is very hard to anticipate where prices can go. If we look at weekly time frame, previous weekly candle closed below 5 weeks candle low. So in my opinion there is a probability for current weekly candle to pick up first and then continue pushing down, but the previous weekly candle also closed with a rejection wick of almost 200 pips, so we will take it into account the rejection also, but it is too early to say where will price go by looking at weekly candle. If we look at daily, so basically we are ranging at this point. If we look only at daily candles, the current daily candle moved up almost 30-40 pips, but it didn't create a lower wick, and if it clears the high of previous candle it can move up, but we need more confirmations and we are waiting at this point. If we look at H4, we have support at 1790 area, we have resistance at 1822 area, and we also have resistance at 1812 area and minor support at 1806 area, but we will read draw these by looking in H1 time frame. We look at H1, we have support at 1804 area, and if we draw our resistance is at 1812 area. If we break below 1804 area, we can potentially drop till 1800 area, and if the volume is with us, we can even continue pushing down till, I would say, 1793 area, almost like 100 pips below 1803 area. On the other hand, if we break above 1813 area, there is some problems at 1814 area, but after 1840 area, there is high probability for prices to keep pushing up till at least 1817 area. But at this point, we are just waiting. Basically, I will be waiting for my pattern 1 and pattern 2 to appear, and I will only trade based on those patterns, because I have tested something that if I only trade the pattern that I explained on 27th June live stream and on 1 July live stream in London session, I have explained those patterns. If I only trade based on those patterns, I can easily create almost 5 to 10% of my capital per month. But the fact is, I need to trade my pattern objectively, and I will cut my losses short if at any point I realize markets this pattern is not going to work because of low volume, then I would have to cut my trades. This is the only way that I can achieve almost 5 to 10% a month, but by risking almost 1% per trade. So at this point, we are just waiting. We have basically two areas, 1814 area and 1804 area. If we look at GBP/JPY, first of all, let's redo our analysis. So basically, monthly candle has created a lower wick, but the wick is created in almost 5 days. But still, there is a probability for prices to keep pushing up. If we look in GBP/JPY, if we look in weekly time frame, the previous weekly candle broke below the low of the previous weekly candle and dropped like 300 pips, and now the current weekly candle is moving up. It also has a lower wick, but the point is there is a resistance, I would say strong weekly resistance at 165.900, almost like 70-80 pips away. So we will see if the current weekly candle is creating a wick up to potentially keep pushing down in upcoming days, but it is too early to say where will price gonna move at this point. So we are just waiting. If we look at daily time frame, we have a support at 163.500 and resistance at 166.200. If we look at H4, we have support at 162.400 and resistance at 166.600. We are basically moving up. We have moved up like 300 pips by from Friday. So if we look at H1, we need to see, basically we have a support at 164.200. You also have a resistance at, this is a fresh resistance, but it is valid in my opinion at 165.200. And if we break below 164.200 area, there is high probability for prices to keep pushing down, but we need to be very careful of this support area, and it could potentially stop prices from pushing down. So we need to also mark this area. However, if we break below 163.900 area, there is probability for prices to keep pushing down in this 50 pips of range. On the other hand, if we break above this area, let's look left. So if we look left, there are a lot of problems, a rejection, rejection, rejection. So at this point, I am not looking for buys. My potential short entries will be below 163.900 area, almost like 50 pips away from where from the low. So let's, first of all, we will mark low quality buys may appear above 165.200 area. Clean range in GBP JPY above 165.200 area is not present. So only thing I am looking at this point to for GBP JPY to break and keep pushing up above 165.200 area if the volume is with us. So I am looking at volume. If the volume appears, there is high probability for prices to keep pushing up, but I am not entering in this trade. No clean range and require high volume to keep pushing up. This is the only thing for buys I would say above 165.200 area. On the other hand, if we break below 163.900 area, there is a clean range and I am sure we will be able to capture few pips. Better sells below 163.900 area, and sells below 165.200 area may also work, but it is only 12 pips range, and if we keep pushing up we may continue moving till 163.850. So it is almost like 28 pips of range. So basically, in my opinion, I will be waiting for prices to potentially break below 163.900 area, but this area is like 132 pips away from current market prices, so we may not able to see GBP JPY breaking below this area today. So the trade idea might not work out. And if we look at GBP JPY, there is also a support formation at 164.900 area. Below this area there is like 34 pips of range, so we also may execute once prices starts breaking 164.900 area, but we need to look at higher time frame. If we look at in the higher time frame, candles moved up with big bodies and now candles are consolidating. So for for us to execute shorts below 164.900 area, we want some at least one M15 candle break and close below 164.900 area, or otherwise if our patterns like pattern 1 appear, we don't need it basically close for shorts. Shorts may appear, shorts may appear below 164.900, but it is too early to say where will prices move at this point. But this is our whole analysis in GBP JPY, and we are basically waiting for candles close now. M15 candle has just opened it and it will close in 12 minutes, but we are waiting at this point. In gold, the analysis was pretty simple. Buys above 1813, shorts below 1804. If we break above 1813 area, we can potentially keep moving up till 1817. There was also a resistance. 1814 was also a resistance, like 57 pips. Sorry, we need to measure from 1813. It is like 10 pips till 1814 and 37 pips till 1817. So this was a strong resistance. If we break above 1813, we can potentially keep moving up at least till 1817. I would say like 57, 43, 44 pips of range. On the other hand, if we break below 1804 area, there is high probability for prices to keep moving down till almost in 48 pips range till 1800 area. So analysis is very simple in gold. Buys above 1813, we are currently looking at these two scenarios, and we are just waiting. So I am basically looking for patterns that I will execute on. There are only two trade patterns, but I have tested like pattern 2 is very difficult to execute on, and you require some sort of experience in while executing on pattern 2, while pattern 1 is very easy. So we will see what pattern will appear today and we may execute based on those patterns. So today is Tuesday. We will also look at news. Today is 5th of July. Candle close, but still there is nothing that shows us that if that we are going to execute after M30 candle will close. So we are just waiting at this point. Today will be a very long wait game because we are coming from long holidays, long weekend, so we might not get an entry as we are anticipating, but we are waiting and we are ready to execute if something appears that we like to see. So if we look at if we look at pattern 1, let's look at pattern 1. This is what I am expecting that it may appear today. So there are basically 4 conditions of pattern 1. First of all, we need fake out. Second, we need zone, this zone. Third, we need volume was present. And fourth, we need candle to start wick below first and then start breaking above the highs. And yeah, so this is pattern 1. And if we look at our pattern 2, basically we need some things. First of all, established high time frame trend was down, volume fake out in traction of trend. So yeah, so basically in this type of pattern we need two fake outs. First of all, we need volume. Second, sorry, volume and high established higher time frame trend. Volume should be present at an area where you are trying to execute your position right at this point. This is the and then we fake out. This is the fake out. This is also fake out in traction of higher time frame trend. And fourth thing is zone in direction opposite of trend. This is the zone in direction opposite of trend. Fake out, then prices do a fake out on this zone and then entry you can enter. Yeah, so this is pattern 2. The right entry will be once candle the next candle is closed at this inside the range, so we are clear that this is a fake out. But if we look at volumes, it is just an anticipation that next candle will close inside the range. So I basically entered at this position, and if prices do fake out above and then there is volume and prices started to break below the low, then This is our entry point for pattern fun. This is, I would say, a risky trade, but yeah, but this is the way things are. This pattern was little bit complicated, I would say, but that's the way things are. So gold M30 candle is closing in 3 minutes. We need to wait for 3 more minutes. Right, the 15-minute and M30 candle is now closed. In GBP the 15-minute candle has closed with a rejection of like 13 pips, but in my opinion, it is not a. It can be a big fill, but it is not a rejection. In my opinion, prices will still keep pushing up till this area, but we are at this point waiting. We are waiting for the setups that we like to trade, and then we may execute at this point. So if we look at gold in H1 time frame, now we are creating a range here. This is very dirty range. This range is about 22 pips. We need first of all a breakout outside any of outside this range, then we may anticipate a position in gold. But first and foremost, we need a breakout outside of this range between 1809 and 1811. Only then we can anticipate something in GBP M30, nothing in M30, nothing in M15, H1. This is a nothing at this point, man. No matter how hard I put a focus, but I can't recognize anything in GBP JPY at this point. We may find something at some later point in time, but there is nothing at this point. So we need to wait for 15 more minutes till this candle close. I need also want a water break. Waiting for candle close in GJ and gold. So at this point we are just waiting. just at calendar. Today is Tuesday. AUD cash rate was increased, and there are no major news today. However, there is a low impact bond news, but we will look at it. So let's look at GBP because they have increased the interest rate. Let's see how GBP has. So although the interest rate was increased, still we moved up like 55 pips in GBP AUD. This is due to inflation. Although the interest rates are increasing, prices should drop in GBP AUD, but in prices do increase in GBP AUD because of inflation. Yesterday I was listening to some podcast, and the person doing the podcast said that all the countries since 1980 are injecting more money into economy. He said that the world economy is around 85 trillion dollar, while world economy is around 85 trillion dollar. That accounts to the GDP of all the nations in the world. And he said that almost like 30 trillion US dollar of 85 trillion of world economy is based on the inflation. So while all the central banks, including including Fed, BOE, ECB, AUD, and NZD, are trying to reduce inflation, so the person takes into account that if we like withdraw 13 trillion US dollar from 85 trillion US dollar of markets, then we can assume how worse the recession and how worse the world economy will perform in next 12 to 36 months. He also assumes that for 12-36 months the situation will worse in his opinion. So the M15 candle has now closed. We will remove this. So basically candles have closed, but at this point we are waiting for some sort of volume to appear, as all our patterns require volume. If the volume is not present, then the whole patterns are usually invalid in low volume days like yesterday. So we are just waiting at this point. hourly candle is closing in around 7 minutes. So basically, let me show you something while we are waiting for candle close. So basically, starting from trade 88 to trade 103, these are almost like 15 trades that I have executed on a slow month of December and January, including that there are a lot of holidays, New Year holiday, Christmas holidays, and things like that. Still, I was able to find like almost 14 patterns, and I executed on them that those patterns with 1% risk, around 1000 to 1200 US dollar risk per trade on these patterns. And if we look at 15 trades, the first one was sorry, it was 14, I would say, or less than 15, because I have closed like multiple positions. The first one was 700 profit. This is the same runner from first trade that hit break even. The second trade was so I don't know if these are two trades or one trade, but oh, this is actually one trade. I guess I have entered with very small stop loss. That's why it plays like 11 lots on this trade. So this whole trade was uh, $23,000 profit, I would say. So these are two trades, and on the third trade, this these three are one trade. I basically hit break even, I would say, and on seven trade, third sorry, fourth trade. This was my fourth trade. I executed on 17th of December, and it was minus, it was basically a loss, but my complete loss was around 12,000, but I was able to manage my stop. And I guess I have also lowered my lot size, but I don't exactly remember this trade. So on my fifth trade, that was 29th December, basically waited for my pattern to appear for 12 days. Basically no pattern appeared on these 12 days, and it was a win. Basically this was 1200 US dollar. So these were six trades, and this was seven trade. It was basically a loss closed early, because this pattern violates condition of volume must be there. So I closed it early, but it went in my way, but I am sort of okay with that. So six trades I have taken, and two were one break even, two stop loss, only four were winners. And this trade was also one trade. This was also a winner, around 700, around 800 profit. And next, this was eighth trade. Like, I have lowered my risk on this trade because it was very risky, and it was also a profit. So nine trades basically I have taken in almost a month of backtesting, but and only I hit around, I would also consider this trade a break even. I have hit two break evens, I would say, and one stop loss, but I have lowered my stop loss, lowered my risk, because something at that point appeared that showed me that the probability of this trade working out has is very low. That's why I closed this. And if we look, so I have made around 7500 US dollar on these trades only by risking around 1%, around 1200 US dollar. These are 15, but in actual these are around 8 trades, one break even, two break even, one stop loss, and 5 wins basically. But the wins definitely outweighed the losing trades. Around made around 7500 profit, like it's like 7% on my account. So if we look at the equity curve, this is where I started executing on this. uh, this is where I have only executed my patterns. So this was the equity curve. So yeah, this is what I wanted to show, and I expect the same. Like in real markets, I do expect that these patterns will appear, but the occurrences of these patterns will be rare. But I will be able to make money at least 5 to 7% on this, 5 to 7% a month on this pattern. So yeah, that's what I would like to say. So H1 candle is now closed. So let's look at these candles. So H1 candle do close below 165.200 area, and the next candle is almost testing the low of previous H1 candle in first 1 minute. So we are very careful with this at this point, and we have not basically found our pattern to execute on. So just waiting at this point. I still see a small volume. We need a volume for patterns to work in our favor. If we look at GJ gold, we have 1 2 3 4 5 candles closing at 1811. So there are no buys and there are no shorts at this point, but I am expecting that we can but I am expecting that we can either break below 1809 area or do a fake out at 1809 to potentially keep pushing up, but we need volume and we are just waiting. So GBP JPY candle is breaking below the low in first 6 minutes, but there is nothing we can do. Even if it break below this area, I won't be entering in short because prices didn't have done what I wanted them to do before I can start executing a position. So at this point we are just waiting, and today is Tuesday and it can be a low volume day, but we are just waiting. We will see that later on. We are basically waiting for some sort of action from markets so that we can enter. If we look at our blog, I have mentioned conditions for pattern 1, pattern 2 and pattern 3. All these patterns require high volume. So I can still see that there is little to no volume present in market, so I am basically waiting. So we are testing around 164.900 area. Shorts may appear below this area, but the point is we haven't done a fake out above 165.200 area for our pattern 1 to be valid. And even if we create some sort of breakout at this area, our pattern 2 will not be formed. The conditions for our pattern 2 will not appear at this point. So we are basically waiting. Gold is ranging in a tight range. There is still hope that in GBP/JPY we can find something. So this H4 candle is only 1 hours old. It will close in 3 more hours. So just waiting. It will be a long wait game in GBP/JPY and in gold today. Yes, we are waiting at this point. Basically, a lot of people say me that you wait a lot, like if we are searching in front of screen for 1 to 2 hours, we want some sort of entry, we want some sort of reward from markets. But in my opinion, it doesn't works like that. Trading is a long wait game. If I show you the history of simulation on which I applied the same method, you see the first trade was taken on 8 of December, second was taken on 10th, third was on 13th, 4 was on 17th, and the fifth trade was taken on 29th. So there was, like, I waited for 12 days both in London and New York session for my next entry to appear, and appeared on 29th of December, and I executed on this and made profits. And then it appeared on 3rd of January, but it violates some of the condition of pattern. I closed it, but it still worked out, like the prices moved 100 pips in my direction. But this is the way things are, and I will close every time the market violates any of the condition of my pattern. And then I waited again for another day to execute on another trade, and so basically I was able to find trade every day starting from 3rd of January. But this whole wait game from 17th of December to 29th of December frustrated me, and I sort of keep questioning myself, keep questioning my system, that if I will be able to stick to the plan and things like that. But however, I keep doing it, but once I saved the report of my testing, and then I looked at it, and I was surprised to see that I made around 7% on backtesting by risking 1% per trade or half percent per trade in 30 days. So even if I was able to make like 2 to 3%, I will be super happy. But this is around 7% on this trade, including the stops I hit. So so the whole idea behind trading is patience. The more patient are, the more you are going to get out of this market. For now, we are just waiting. Still there are big rejections to the left. So even this candle is a big body candle and it indicates that some sort of volume is present, but this candle has failed to even break below this VIX rejection. So in my opinion, there is nothing so far in markets. So we are just waiting at this point. We may be able to find something in New York session. We are just waiting at this point. We need to wait for 10 more minutes before the M30. So basically I am staying away from gold at any cost, because if I look at M30, there are wicks to the up and to the below candle bodies. So this is a huge red flag for me. I am staying away from gold at any cost. Staying away from gold, no volume and no action so far. So basically I am not looking at gold for now. All the ideas of buys above 1813 and shorts below 1804, or we were expecting some shorts, some sort of shorts below 1809. These are these all ideas are invalid for now until we see some volume. I am staying away from gold. but still I can anticipate that some sort of volume is present in GBP JPY. So I may execute, and based on the patterns that I would like to see, if those patterns appear, I would execute. But for now we are just waiting. We are just waiting at this point. GBP JPY shorts can appear below this area, but again we are not executing anything unless and until we find something that we recognize from past. We need to wait for 5 more minutes before the candles will close. So in gold we are testing 1809 area, and we are waiting for this candle to close in almost 2 minutes. In GBP JPY we are also waiting for current candle to close. In gold some sort of volume do appeared in current 15-minute candle. So we are breaking below 1809 area. We need to wait for few more seconds. We are basically waiting for candles to close. And the candles have closed now. So in gold, M15 candle closed with no wick at the bottom, and it can keep pushing down, but at this point there is nothing for us. In GBP JPY, we have closed like nothing candle, so we need to wait for one more candle in GBP JPY, but still in my opinion we need to break below 164.800 area to keep pushing down. Mm, Gold is pushing down in first 50 seconds. JPY has finally through a wick below previous wicks, and gold has basically also done a fake out. If it close in this back in this range, then it will be a fake out, but at this point we are just waiting. We are only 3 minutes into this candles. We will not enter short or long in GBP JPY. We are just waiting. We need to wait for 11 more minutes. GBP JPY. The question is how this M15 candle will close. We need to wait. We are waiting for candles to close. need to wait for 7 more minutes. In GBP we basically wicked below all these wicks, and now we are moving back in the range. So it is better for us to wait to see where candle will close. Gold, we basically tested 1809 area. We may continue pushing down till 1807 area, but we are just waiting at this point. We need to wait for 5 more minutes, and hopefully then we can find something that we can execute on. Let's wait for 2 more minutes. Let's look at GBP weak bullish candle is closing like a weak bullish candle, and so far it is very difficult to anticipate what's gonna happen next. So we are just waiting at this point. We need to wait for candles are about to close. The candle has now closed. The 15-minute candle has closed at 1809 area, so it is not a fake out at this point. And in GBP JPY, we have closed back inside the range. It could be a fake out, but for our pattern 1 to be valid, we need to break above 165.200 area to potentially enter in long. But the fake out end zone is not the only requirement in pattern 1, so we are just waiting. In my opinion, GBP JPY will show me what I wanted to see from GBP JPY, but the H1 candle hasn't closed yet, so I am basically waiting at this point. And if it breaks above 165.200 area, then these buys will not be a low quality, it will be a very strong buys above 165.200 area. And I will delete this because we knew there is some sort of volume, but we need to be more accurate in our analysis. So at this point, it is in our best interest to just wait. Yes, there is no lower wick in current M15 candle. If there was a lower wick in M15 candle and then it starts to break above this wick, then I might have entered a buy position on my demo account, but I will not execute anything outside of my patterns on my real account. I want at least 1 month of history to see how I am performing if I only execute the patterns that I have identified and defined in database. Can be a long wait game in GBP and in gold, but we are waiting this. Oh yeah, so gold is now closing inside the range. If so, there is a high probability that a pattern above 1813 may appear. So this assumption that staying away from gold is now invalid in my opinion, but I will be waiting for candles to close and then I can assume something in GBP/JPY. There is volume in GBP/JPY. There wasn't any volume in gold, and we have seen some sort of volume in gold from past 30 minutes. We need to see how these candles close. To wait for 8 more minutes. Still there is no wick to the downside in GBP/JPY, else I would have entered short. Okay, let's execute this trade on our demo account. But this is very low probability trade. Why? Because H1 candle is still bearish and it is still below the low of previous H1 candle. That is why it is a very low probability trade and there is no way I'm gonna execute this trade on my real account. So just waiting. See how this gold candle will close. If it now starts breaking above 1812 area, I will execute a buy position in gold, and I will basically neglect this consolidation at 1813, 1814 and 1817. But we are just waiting, we are waiting to see how these candles will close in gold and in GBP JPY. Need to wait for 5 more minutes till the candle close. We are waiting for candle close. Getting myself ready if something that I like to see appear in GBP JPY, and I will execute on that. But for now we are just waiting. right, the candles have now closed. If we look in GBP JPY, this H1 candle has closed like a rejection candle, and still there is very high probability for prices to keep pushing up now. In gold, we have created a bullish candle right below the support, so it can be a fake out, but at this point we need to wait for more confirmations, and I am ready to execute in GBP JPY because I believe my pattern 1 is in here. So let's be attentive. The problem with this GBP JPY buys is that there is no lower wick in GBP JPY. That's why I didn't execute it buys in GBP JPY, else I may have executed a bias in GBP JPY. Still, there is very high probability at this point to for GBP JPY to keep pushing up, and if uh, I would say it is a requirement for my pattern 1 to be valid. If it needs to be sort of appears in next 30 minutes, if it didn't appear in next 30 minutes, then there is no, then the pattern may be invalid, or there is no pattern 1 at that point. So just waiting. We executed bias in demo count right at this area. It went in like 17 pips profit, but this is not the point of entering into this trade. I entered in this trade for some other reasons. In gold, there is very high probability for prices to keep pushing down till 1807 area, almost like 17 pips, 18 pips away from this from these prices. but I am looking for something that I recognize, and I will only execute on those patterns. Have basically broken below the low previous 15-minute candle, and at this point our stop is hit around 12 pips, and yes, so this was a problem, like we have created a bearish H1 candle. So that's the whole reason I was waiting on my real account, because I knew that market can respect the previous H1 candle. So the whole idea of buys that I was assuming above this area is now invalid. And now there is very high probability for prices to keep pushing to the downside area. But we are just waiting at this point. We are basically waiting for candles to close. I was anticipating some sort of rise above 165.200 area, but that thing didn't appear. There was some sort of shorts below these wicks, but if even if I enter on short on this trade right here, where will my stop loss will be around 27 pips, to potentially hit around 30 pips profit target, but I am waiting. So basically we are pushing down in gold. This thing was very much expected, but we didn't find our pattern in gold, so we didn't execute in gold. Maybe at some later point in time we can find something that we can execute on, but So far, there is nothing at this point. If a candle is moving like a bearish candle, that doesn't mean it is sell. If a candle is a bullish candle, that doesn't mean it's a buy. Basically, we need some sort of confirmation and something that we recognize in past so that we can enter in trades. We have waited for almost like 2 hours, but we are just waiting. So in GBP JPY, our anticipation that if we break below these wicks, there is high probability for prices to keep pushing down till this area like 30 pips. So this trade idea is now over at this point. In gold, we anticipated that if we break below this zone 1809, we can keep pushing down, and we do moved like 30 pips in this direction. But the whole idea at this point is I was unable to execute on these trades because first, these trades were out of my patterns. Second, I don't know how to execute in such market conditions. So I sort of stayed away from both these trades, and I am perfectly okay with that. So basically our first area of interest was 164.700 and our second area of interest was 164.500, almost like 30 pips away from these wicks. And now the next area is 164.300, like 50 pips away from this. But the whole point is I don't like I don't like to execute in this trade format. The problem is the whole problem with the type of trade idea is that there is a probability that prices can move down and there is a probability that prices can't move down. The probability of working these types of trades is low, as I would say based on my experience, and also the risk reward on these types of trades is low, I would say. So that's why I stayed away from these trade setups. but I will execute on something that may appear later on. But at this point, it's just a wait game. So the M15 candle has closed in gold. M15 candle has closed below the low of M30 candle, and still there is very high probability for prices to keep pushing down. But at this point, I am just waiting. If we look at this candle body, there is very high chance for GBP JPY to keep pushing down. But I am just waiting at this point. I need a better entry. I need to execute on something that I recognize from past. So basically, look at it. We need to wait for candle close in GBP JPY. For now, there is nothing in GBP JPY. In gold, we can still move down potentially to 1805 area. But again, I am staying away from gold. We are just waiting. I do need to wait for 13 more minutes. If candles show us something else, I am leaving, and I will see you guys in New York Session live stream. This is also an area of interest. If we look at H4 candle has broken below the low of previous H4 candle, and there are 2 hours left in candle H4 candle close. But H4 candle is also approaching a potential rejection or problematic area at this point. We may sort of we still may find some sort of entries above 165.200 area, and on the other hand, if candles pick up first and then started breaking the low of previous candle, there is high probability we can keep pushing 40 more pips in the same direction. But we are just waiting. So gold is continuing its run down, but it's okay. I need better entries. I need to find something that I have seen from past and I can execute on it. Y is pushing back deep inside the range, so there is no trade at this point. A trade may appear later on, but we are just waiting. So the London session has opened 22 minutes ago, and yes, we are basically waiting. As a trader, we can't control the markets, but we can control ourselves, our emotions, and things like that. So basically, in GBP/JPY, if we break above 165.200 area and we have like big body candle, so basically it could be a good thing, but we are in shorts unless and until we break and close above 165 164.800 area. We are in shorts so far. I mean, our bias is short, sells unless and until we are below 164.800 area. Gold basically has completed our anticipated move, but yeah, that's it. This trade was very risky trade to capture, and I don't want to risk something on a very risky trade. This is risky because we have first support around 6 pips away, second support around 16 pips away, another support around 22 pips away, and another support at around 33 pips away. That's why I stayed away from this trade. It do worked out, but that's okay for me. Let's look at news if we can find some news. So every country in the world is increasing its interest rate except from Switzerland, and JPY and the European Union, but the rest of countries have we have pound rate hike, we have AUD rate hike, we have CAD rate hike, we have US dollar rate hike, and we don't have New Zealand dollar rate hike so far, but they may also increase rates. If we look at next week, yeah, even CAD is increasing its interest rate from 1.5 to 2%. The previous was they actually increased the date on June 1, and man, on July 13th, almost like 45 days later, they are again increasing the rates. If we look at, they have already increased the rates from 0.25% from start of January, from the start of this year to 1.5%. That's huge, man. I don't know what's gonna happen next, but there, oh yeah, here look, New Zealand is also increasing its interest rate from 2% to 2.5%. Basically, they haven't increased. Okay, if we look at, they have increased their interest rates already from 0.75% to 2.5%. So everything will be super duper expensive in next 4 to 5 months, I would say. Let's look at if we can find US dollar rate statement. So if we look at US dollar has already increased rates from 0.25% to 1.75%. So bond rate got hiked, AUD rate got hiked, CAD rate got hiked 0.25 to 1.5%, and they are now it they can may increase rates to 2% on July 13th. US dollar has already increased rate from 0.25% to 1.75%. New Zealand dollar has increased its rates from 0.75% to 2%, and they are even thinking to increase the rates further. So this whole thing is very scary in my view, and today AUD rate got hiked from at the start of 2022. AUD has 0.1% interest rate, and now they have around 1.35% interest rate. That's way too huge. So the M30 candle has closed in GBP/JPY. It has closed a strong bearish candle, but in M15 candle we have a small bullish candle. So it means the bearish volume may be dying, but or it may have done the retest to these wicks. We are unsure of that, so we are just waiting. In gold we are still heavily bearish. We can still keep pushing down. So at this point, in my opinion, it will take at least 1 to 2 hours for our entries to appear as per our plan. So I am closing my live stream at this point, and I will see you guys later in New York session live stream. Take care. So take